Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is The Take for Market Rebellion. And I'll tell you what, we have had a very interesting week. We've had some movement. We've had a lot of different reasons to be talking more and more and more, it seems like, about these meme stocks and the volumes and everything that's going with it. But kind of a quiet start to Wednesday. And then we started to see a little bit of a sell-off that really started to take shape right around noon when you take a look over at the Dow, and that accelerated. And as we got further into the day, we moved from essentially call it flat to finish down about 150 points. You look over at the NASDAQ had some pressure as well, not nearly as much. And it actually only closed down about 13 points, but it started off strong, sort of faded by noon, and then started to see that end of the day where we actually saw where it was not able to get and hold into that green once again. So a little bit of pressure there. We had volatility index trading between 16 and 18. We went out just below that 18 level, so near where we've been. We've been in these teens for a while. We just hit 52-week lows just the other day. So it's interesting to see all of that, and then the massive volumes that we had yesterday. We have had incredible volume. We've talked about it. We've talked about the growth in the derivatives world. I actually had somebody reach out to me on Twitter and showing what it looked like back in 2000, 2001, 2002, the volumes. Take a look at that if you ever get a chance, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about growth rate. And we had a little bit of a stall when we got towards 2018-19. That's right around that 20 million. Then we got into 2020, huge numbers. And again, 2021, it's just been a miraculous year. 44 million contracts trading yesterday. Here's the interesting part. It wasn't Apple leading. It wasn't Tesla leading. It actually wasn't even some of the names, GameStop, but it was Clove. We talk about Clover Health, and that name actually was leading in volume yesterday, followed by AMC. And then you started to get the usual suspects lining up. But 44 million contracts, pretty amazing number. Then we talk about the price of crude. And crude has been on the move for a really long time. A lot of folks jumping on the bandwagon recently. We can all hear that, and we see that, and we know who those folks are. They were negative when oil was trading in the 30s, and suddenly they've gotten positive with oil now, basically call it in the 70s. It's pretty interesting because we've been talking about these beta names in energy for a really long time, and the incredible movement that we have seen out of some of those names. And that has been a huge spark. But it wasn't just that. It was the price of oil that started moving. We saw a lot of unusual option activity and everything from the Exxons, XLE, Chevron. But then we had so much, and we continue to see that volume coming into a lot of what I've been put into the category of these beta names. And then take a look at the XOP. We talk about that each and every day. We talk about that index just the other day hitting another 52-week high. So yesterday, when we look back, really it was healthcare, and that really was it. And in terms of the positive side of things, up about 1% yesterday. We had Regeneron working. We had Biogen once again. Biogen working again today. We had Bristol Myers, we had Pfizer, we had Lilly, we had Merck. We had a pretty nice, strong move in the healthcare. Everything else seemed to have some definite pressure on it, particularly looking at the financials, industrials, materials. Those were all definitely under some pressure, nearly 1%, some of those down about 1%. But Bitcoin, we've talked about this volatility that's been coming back into Bitcoin, and that certainly is a great example of that 32,000 and actually below that level, all the way back up to 37,000. You take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin today. As a matter of fact, today we were pushing on that 38,000 level for Bitcoin. So it gives you a little bit of idea. We were holding for a while. We lost a lot of that volatility that we had been seeing. And now it seems like we're seeing volatility come right back in some of the movement that we're seeing out of Bitcoin in that range that's kind of gotten to be a nice expanding range where we have seen the prices, like I say, anywhere from that 31,000 level and then pushing up towards 40,000, call it, but nowhere near where we were when we had that real volatility when we were talking about Bitcoin in the 60,000 range. Now, today, we had these jobless filings numbers. Those numbers were a little bit better than probably expected. They were new pandemic lows, and then a lot of attention going towards what's been going on with some of the inflationary side of things as well. All of that, you mix all that together, and what do you have? Well, you have a Dow that was up about almost 100 points in the pre-market. It's been holding on and actually accelerated to the upside. It was up nearly 300 points early on. It has pulled back, though. We're looking at the Dow. The last I checked, it was trading about up about 160. So still a pretty nice performance for the day so far. Really a nice acceleration that we are seeing. We're going from being in the red in the pre-market all the way into the positive, into the green, and the NASDAQ continuing to just run and actually got up. It was up about 100 points. It's up somewhere between 90 and 100 points. A very, very nice move in this first hour of the trading session. Crude, yep, back up and over that 70 mark. As a matter of fact, trading somewhere between 70 and 70 and a half in that sort of a range. Really, really been a powerful move for the price of oil, and we've been all watching and participating, hopefully, along the way with all of this unusual that we have been seeing in that particular space. The volatility index today, easing back just a little bit. Actually, when you consider we were closer towards 18, here we are closer towards, call it 16 and a half. We've had about 2 weeks now where we've been in this fairly interesting range, call it anywhere between 15 up towards 18, but relatively constricted after that nice spike that we'd had in volatility as well. So we'll see if that is going to continue or not, but it's definitely seeing today at least some pressure on volatility, at least there. So we talk about the CPI, you had the food, you had energy, you had groceries, all of that. That certainly was something, and it will be something that will be talked about. I'm on the halftime report as well as the fast money at 5, and we'll be obviously focusing on a lot of what's going on the inflationary front. But until then, we got to look at what's really happening right now. Well, feeding into that, materials, that's up about 1%. You look over at energy, it's up nearly 2%. Industrials, financials, getting a little bit of a bid today as well. We talk about those beta names. Last I looked, I was looking at Marathon, I was looking at Oxy, I'm looking at Diamondback, all performing very, very nicely early on. So last I looked, every single sector was green. And when I looked at the Dow, every single name within the Dow was in the green today. So we'll see if that holds on as well. But that was a little bit earlier. And so with this pullback, maybe we aren't seeing that same thing. 2 unusuals. We're going to get out of here. We'll have some unusuals for you on the halftime report as well. So Sempra Energy is number 1, SRE. This one's pretty interesting because it's trading around $140 a share. We had a buyer of 3,700 of the June 145 call. So looking for a little bit more upside. Those options were only going for 50 cents early on. As they started to buy them, price started to go up, and they paid all the way up to 60 cents for that 3,700. But let's remember, that's a fairly short expiration cycle. You want a really short expiration cycle. How about number 2, Boeing? So we're looking at Boeing. Boeing was trading about 254 and actually pulled back. So the opportunity, if somebody thought this was an interesting enough trade, would be there. Last I looked, Boeing was trading a little bit closer to 251. So it actually has gotten a little bit lower than where it was. But they bought 9,000 of the 255 calls that expire tomorrow, June 11th. So understand the risk reward there is a very, very short time frame. We talk about all of the different Greeks. This is theta, because this is literally something that has to happen today or tomorrow, or you can say sayonara to these. But right now, we had 9,000 of those were bought, those 255 calls that expire tomorrow. They paid anywhere between $1.10 all the way up to $2.60. The good news is, with the stock pulling back where it was, maybe those are a little bit closer back to around that early entry level of somewhere closer to $1, $1.10. So that's something to keep an eye on. Folks, have a great day of trading. Knowledge is king. You want to have that knowledge. We have great educators here at Market Rebellion. I talked about 44 million contracts. These are monstrous numbers. This is where the growth is. If you want to know more, check out Market Rebellion. Until then, I'll see you on the halftime report.